What's going on, guys? John Older here from Codemy.com, and in this video, we're going to continue building out our slider for our MP3 player with Tkinter and Python. Alright guys, like I said, in this video, we're going to continue with the music slider. But before we get started, if you like this video and want to see more like it, be sure to smash the like button below, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm, and check out Codemy.com where I have dozens of courses with hundreds of videos that teach you to code. Use coupon code YouTube1 to get $30 off membership. It's all my courses, videos, and books for a one-time fee at just $49, which is insanely cheap. Okay, so we left off last time where this guy sort of works. It moves as the song plays. But now we want to make this to where we can drag it around and it'll change position of the song, what's playing in the song based on that. So you see if we click play, it kind of moves, but we also want to be able to fast forward and rewind based on dragging and dropping this thing. And that's what we're going to do in this video. So let's head over to our code. I've saved this, as always, as player.py. We're using the Sublime Text Editor and the Get Bash terminal, as always. And if you haven't seen the first few episodes of this little series, check the comment section below for a link to the playlist. So, okay, we're going to be dealing with a couple of our functions that we already have, the playtime function and the slide function. So the first thing we want to do is we want to change position of the song, what's playing, based on dragging the slider around. So to do that, I'm going to head down to our play function real quick. I'm just going to grab these four lines of code. This loads the song up from what's active in the playlist, loads it, and then plays it with Pygame. So I'm just going to copy this. Now let's head down to our slider function. There's this slide function right here. And I'm going to comment out this label that we've been doing for testing purposes. And I'm just going to paste in this code. So we've got our song, we're loading it from the playlist. We're doing some string manipulation to it to add on the directory structure and the .mp3, so it's not just the name, so we can actually look it up. Here we're loading it into the music, into the mixer, the Pygame mixer, and now we want to play it. Now this is where we need to tweak our code a little bit here. We want to start, we can set a start position, and we can set that equal to whatever we want. Well, we want this to sit at the position of whatever the slider is. Remember, as we drag that slider around, it gives a numerical value in a float. Now we can change that to an integer, which is what we want to do here. And so let's just go ahead and do that. So int, and we can call my_slider.get, and that's a function, and that should work, right? So strictly speaking, this should work. Now we're gonna have some trouble with this, and you'll see what this is all about in a minute, but we could just save this and run it. So Python player.py. We've got our guy here. We can add a song, play it. Everything seems to be working fine. Now if we drag it, it's definitely moving it forward in the song, but then it's snapping it back. So what exactly is going on here? Well, I can just tell you, whenever you change position of, well, let's just close this. Whenever you change position of a song using the Pygame mixer, the new current position gets reset to 0, right? So as we drag it forward, it snaps back to 0 because in our play time function, we've got the current time set to Pygame mixer.music current to get position. And when we drag that slider, this gets reset to 0. And remember, at the bottom of this function, we're running this after function that redoes this function every second. So essentially what happens is we drag the slider over, and then a second later, this function gets called again, and it resets this to 0. So all kinds of problems here that we're gonna have to dig through in order to make this work. So, I mean, it's really weird that this resets to 0, and it's almost like a bug in Pygame. It really shouldn't do it that way, but it does. And there's not much you can do about it. So what we're gonna have to do is whenever we drag the slider around, we're gonna have to stop using the current time as the current time. But we still need to know where we are in the song. So how do we get that number? Well, we know because when we drag the slider, that position that we drag it to, that's where we are in the song. So if we drag it 10 seconds forward, we know we're 10 seconds forward into the song because that's where the slider position is. So instead of using this current time from now on, we're just going to use the slider position. And we're going to have to hack around a little bit to make this work. But and it may not be perfect, but it may be, just depending on how well we hack around with this and how much time we want to spend on it. But it's going to be pretty darn close. You know, we're talking about milliseconds off here and there, maybe, or maybe not, just depending. So that's what we're basically going to do. So this is going to take us a couple of videos, probably, but it's not that bad. So first things first, we need to do some diagnostic stuff. So let's come down all the way to the bottom of our app here. And if you remember, we've got this slider label that we're using. It's a temporary slider label that is just outputting stuff, and we've got it set to 0 when it starts. So let's head up to our playtime function. And right at the very top of this thing, right after our current time, let's throw up temporary label to get data. And so this is going to be that slider underscore label, and we want to config this, .config, and let's set the text equal to an F string. And what we want to see here is we want to see the current slider position, and that's just going to be int and then my underscore slider dot get, and that's a function. We also want to get and song position, and that's going to be this current time, right? So it's just whatever the current time is. And let's make this into an int as well, just in case. All right, so let's go ahead and save this. Oops, let's see. We're missing our close bracket there. Okay, so take that off there. Okay, so we've got our F string slider. This thing is our current slider position. This thing is our current song position. So, okay, let's go ahead and save this and run it. And we just want to see what's going on here. So important to see what all of these things are outputting. And we're going to be surprised sometimes. So let's play this. Now check this out. These two numbers are wrong. They're off. The slider is a second behind the song position. So it's kind of interesting to know, right? So we need to know that. So since the slider is a second off, we need to sort of fix that. So let's do that real quick. Let's head back over to our play function and just kind of look at it here. What's going on here is we're loading the song here. Then we're calling the playtime function. And then after the playtime function fires, like a second goes by, then we're updating this my slider value to 0. So a second has already gone by, the song is played, and then we set the value of this to 0. So we can maybe change this to 1 or something like that, but instead I'm just going to grab all of this stuff and I'm going to comment it out here in case we need it again, and I'm just going to move this into this playtime function so that everything's happening at the same time, so there's not that second differential between things. So we can come up here to our playtime function, and where do we want to put this? Well, for now, let's just put it right above where our updating time by 1 second increment thing goes. So what we're doing here is we're calling the to position. This is, our slider is, you know, it started out from 0 to 100. We want to change the length of the slider to the song length. So that's what we're doing here. We're changing the song length, which we're getting inside this playtime thing. So it kind of makes sense that this is all together anyway. And then we're updating that. So let's go ahead and save this and run it and see if that made a difference. So let's add a song. Let's play our song. And we're still getting, and now it's not doing anything at all, right? So we need to then update this. So instead of setting the value of 0 here, we want to probably set this to the current length or the current time of the song, right? So we can just set this. Let's make this an integer just to make sure. So let's go ahead and save this, and now we can come back here and play it again. So important to do these things step at a time so you can see if a thing worked. If it didn't, you know exactly what you need to look at. It's the thing you just worked on. So, all right, so now still a second off of these two. So that's weird. So just right here, let's just go current underscore time plus equals 1. We'll add 1 to it, and then that should do the trick. So let's go ahead and save this. Hold over, add a song. All right, so now we're synced up, right? Okay. So now when we drag this around, we'll notice the one gets changed and the other one snaps back to 0. That's because, like I said, whenever we move around in the position of a song, the current time gets reset to 0. So, okay. At least now, though, we have a starting point. We know that they're starting out equal. The slider and the current time are starting out equal. So now we can use that information and make some changes. So let's head over to our playtime function again. And let's see, after we've converted the song length and all that stuff, but before we've output the stuff to the status bar, let's create some if statements. Let's say if our current slider position, so that's int my underscore slider dot get, and that's a function. If that equals our current time plus 1, right? So actually, let's just right here, let's move this up above here. Okay. Let's go increase current time by 1 second. So now if this equals, and let's go int current underscore time, then slider hasn't been moved. Else, slider has been moved, right? So this is basically saying, hey, we pressed play and the slider is moving along into the current time. We haven't moved it at all, so we can do something there. Else, the slider has moved. What do we want to do? Well, if the slider has moved, we need to then update the numbers on the status bar and a bunch of different things. So if the slider hasn't moved, we want things to just carry on as normal. So we can come down here to our updated slider position stuff that we just did, right? Now let's just copy this and move this inside of here. Boom, and make sure to tab this stuff over. So otherwise the slider has moved and we need to make some changes. So first off, let's grab this same stuff, but we're gonna tweak this a bit here. Paste it in here. So our slider position still is the same song length. That hasn't changed, right? But this thing now needs to be updated to not the current time. It now needs to be updated to whatever it is. So that would be my underscore slider dot get, right? And that's a function. We also need to update our status bar. So let's come down here to our status bar and let's just copy this, and I'm gonna just comment this out and move this up inside this function. But now the elapsed time is not gonna be converted time anymore. This will stay the same, converted song, but this converted time needs to change. So let's come up to our converted time. Where's that at? Converted current time, right? And let's copy this. And let's grab this. And let's come down here inside of this function. And above this little section, let's paste this in. Make sure you tab over. Now this is from the last video where we converted the time. Now we're not converting our current time anymore. Now we're converting the int my underscore slider dot get, and make sure to put your little function brackets. Make sure to count these right. There's a whole bunch of these going on here, and this can get confusing. So now this converted current time will no longer have the actual current time of the song. It will have the slider position of the song, right? So, okay, that seems to make sense. Okay, so we got a lot of stuff going on here, and it's getting a little unruly. So let's just save this and run it. All right, so let's play this song. So let's play a song. And when we press play, everything seems to be working normally here. So that's a good sign. These things are synced up still. This is working. These numbers are synced. Now when we push forward here, we're still getting errors. This is getting reset back to 0. This is getting reset back to 0. And this is no good. So, okay, let's stop this and take a look and see. And just looking through here, when we come down here, we're seeing we're also then, after this whole block is getting run, down here we're also then reconfiguring to this current time, which is 0. So we missed this, so we'll have to comment that out. So, all right, so that looks good. Let's go ahead and save this. Now let's give this a run. And we can add a song. Play it. Now we're getting an error here. But when we do this, at least this is not snapping back, right? And it's updating down here at least, and it's not increasing as it goes forward. So, okay, making some progress. So now when we move that thing around, we move it and then it doesn't increase as the song continues to move because we're no longer using the current value of the song. Remember before, at the bottom of this thing, it would wait a second and then replay this whole playtime function, at which point the current position of the song would be a second ahead and everything would get updated by a second. Well, we're not using the current time anymore, which is not increasing a second, so we need some sort of thing to increase by a second in order for everything to keep moving forward, right? So we can do that in our else statement right here. So let's go move this thing along by 1 second. So let's create a variable and let's call this next time or whatever. And this is going to be an integer of my_slider.get. We want to get the current value of the slider, and then we could just add 1 to that, right? So now we can update everything accordingly. Okay, so we're creating this, but now we also need to configure our slider to take that as the value. So let's go my_slider.config and set the value equal to next_time. Okay, so that should do the trick. So let's go ahead and save this and let's run it. And so we've got, let's add a song. We can play it. Now when we play this right off the bat, that is looking good. We can move forward. And we can see it starts to move again. 42, 43. Now these are off, but this is just for information purposes. We're gonna get rid of this anyway. It served its purpose for us. So 50 seconds, 118, we can go backwards. All right, seems to be looking pretty good. Now, one last thing, there's a lot more stuff we need to do with this because this is obviously not finished, but now we can come towards the end. We go 37, 38, 39, 40. It keeps going, 42, even though it's after the song length. So we can change that really easily. Let's just come up here and our whole if-else block in our playtime function, let's create another if on top of that. So let's go if the integer of my_slider.get equals our int song_length. We can do something. So what is this song length? That's just right up here. Remember we used that mutagen or whatever a couple of videos ago to get the length of the song. We named it song length. So we're saying if the slider is at the end of the song, if it's at the song length, whatever that is, then what do we want to do? Well, we don't really need to do anything. Well, we do. I'll show you in a second. But now we only want to run the rest of this stuff if this is not true, because if this is true, it means the song's over. So we don't need to do any of this stuff. So instead of putting this as an if statement, let's change this to an elif statement. So if this is true, do this and then stop. If it's false, if we're not at the end of the song, then do this. If this is not true, then do this. Basic if elif statement, right? So let's save this and run it. Now we're going to need to do something else here, but I'll show you that right now. So let's play this. Let's grab a song. Let's play it. We can come down to the end here. 38, 39, and it stops at 139. It doesn't go all the way up to 140. And that's fine, but it looks a little goofy there. It feels like it should go to 140 and then stop, right? So we could just really quickly fix that by coming down here, and let's just grab our status bar config thing. And let's just come up here into our pass and just paste this in. Instead of this time elapsed being converted current time, let's just set this equal to this, right? So let's just paste this in here. So this will just output that last second and make sure that this gets updated accordingly. So let's save this and let's run this guy. Add a song, let's play it. That seems to be working. All right, so up 58, 59, 2, 201, 202, it stops. Okay, so this is coming along here, not too bad. Lots of moving parts in this video, and now look, if we hit the pause button, it doesn't pause here. If we hit the stop button, it doesn't stop there. So we've still got some work to do, but this video is getting very, very long. So I think we're gonna stop here for now and pick up those things in the next video. So that's all for this video. If you liked it, be sure to smash the like button below, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm, and check out Codemy.com where you can use coupon code YouTube1 to get $30 off memberships. I pay just $49 to access all my courses, over 45 courses, hundreds of videos, and the PDFs of all my best-selling coding books. Join over 100,000 students learning to code just like you. My name is John Elder from Codemy.com, and I'll see you in the next video.